All right, I think we're good to get started. Hi, everyone. Thanks for dialing into this Hitchhiker webinar, specifically going over how you can power your Freshdesk portal and agent desktop experience with Yext Answers. This is going to be pretty interactive, so as you have questions, please make sure to post them in the chat. I'll be monitoring it actively, and I'll address questions as they come up or at the end, if it makes sense. And in terms of an agenda today, I'll go over who I am, from a high level, give you kind of a picture of what our Freshdesk integration looks like and how it all works. And then we'll go through an end-to-end demo and then answer questions at the end or throughout. So introductions, we don't have many, it's just me today. My name's Henry Kramer. I'm an associate product manager here at Yext, and I specifically cover our support solution set. So that means all of our integrations with providers such as Freshdesk, Zendesk, Salesforce, and hopefully many more in the future. So Freshdesk and Yext, what does our integration actually look like? Excuse the poor graphics you're seeing, but I think this gives a pretty good high-level overview of what the integration actually looks like. And there are three main parts. The first part of the integration is getting your knowledge base from Freshdesk into Yext. Now, historically, this has been either achieved through an ETL, which can be costly, or a flat file upload, which isn't particularly intuitive. What we've created specifically for this integration is an API connector. Now, what that API connector does is it, from within the Yext platform, it links to your Freshdesk instance, and on a daily cadence, syncs all of your Freshdesk articles into the Yext knowledge graph. We'll go through in a couple slides what that flow actually looks like, but all you need to do as the user is provide your Freshdesk subdomain and API key to authorize the connector to run. So that's the first part. It's about getting data from Freshdesk into Yext. The second part is, as you may or may not be familiar with, is creating a Yext Answers experience using that data. Now that can be done one of two ways. The first way is going into our platform yourself and manually configuring the Yext Answers experience, both in terms of search configuration and front-end aesthetic. The alternative way, which our free trial does for you, is once you sign up through the free trial flow, we will automatically create a Yext Answers experience for you using the data that you've just pulled in from the connector. So it's all done under the hood. All you need to do is, you'll see in the free trial flow, is click Enable Experience, and you'll have a Yext Answers experience up and running using that Freshdesk data that we pulled in from the first step. So that's the second step, is creating the Yext Answers experience. The third step is actually taking that Answers experience and adding it either to your agent desktop view, and to support that, we've created an app in the Freshworks app directory. Or the second use case is editing your Freshdesk portal to include the Yext Answers experience. Now, I don't know how familiar you all are with the Freshdesk portal editor, but to do that, we've provided effectively code snippets, which you'll be inserting into the portal editor to optimize Yext for Freshdesk. I'll pause there. Hopefully those three steps are relatively straightforward. And again, this is a 1,000-foot view. So we're going to drill into what each of these steps actually looks like. So you all feel comfortable by the end of this webinar getting Yext on the Freshdesk. So let's drill into, I talked high level about that first step with the Freshdesk solution article connector. Again, this is pulling in specifically your solution articles, and all the user needs to provide is an account domain and an API key. It's really that straightforward. Once you install the connector, you also have the optionality to pull in different fields, maybe custom fields from your solution articles, and map them to entities into Yext. What we've done out of the box is provide you our best guess with the fields that you think will be used or searched against in an Answers experience, but you have complete control over the data that you return from Freshdesk. Keep in mind, one thing to call out is that because you're providing an API key, we will be, these connectors are going to be using your API. So if you have concerns over rate limiting, that's something to consider. That being said, unless you have thousands and thousands of knowledge articles, the API usage is really minimal. So it's nothing that our customers have ever come up against before, but just something, a call out to keep in mind. So skipping past the answers experience onto what the front end integration actually looks like. Apologies for the blurriness of that still, but the first sub solution is help site search. So as you're seeing on your screen, this is what it looks like to interact with Yext search in a Freshdesk portal. And again, this is achieved through the portal backend code editor where you'll add your Yext search experience. The second use case in your portal is case deflection. The use case, of course, here, making it so that as somebody submits a question, as you're seeing on your screen within the subject line, we're going to automatically run a search against that subject within the Yext AI search component on the right-hand side. Of course, here the goal is being to deflect that case submission, saving, of course, your business time, money, resources, saving your agents from having to actually go ahead and answer that question. I know there was a quick video. I'll show you a live example shortly. I'll also just call it on the case deflection piece. We have some pretty robust analytics to support what types of case subjects are being submitted. Of course, this is data you already might know if you analyze your own ticket data, but we also have good data on what types of case deflections are getting deflected, right? What are the subject lines that people are typing? We're running a search against it, and then they're actually aborting that case submission. So this is all data that's obviously relevant to help you build out your content strategy. And then the last sub-solution is agent desktop search. So this is where the app that lives on the Freshworks marketplace, that's where this comes in. And again, apologize for the videos. I'm about to show you a live example. But once you install the app and add your Yext answers URL, your production URL, you'll be able to see Yext AI search in 3 different places in the agent view. You may have missed it just at the start, but one of these placeholders actually will auto search against the ticket subject as well. So your agents don't even need to go in and search manually. So time for the demo. I'll run through our free trial flow. I'll show you what is happening under the hood. The connector will run automatically, and then we can talk through the instructions of actually using the code editor to add your Yext answers experience to Freshdesk. So I'm going to pull up a new screen here. So assuming you can all see my screen, if you head to yext.com/try/Freshdesk, this is where our free trial flow starts. You can see some highlights on the left-hand side, but I'll actually go through the flow and show you what's happening and show you how easy it is to get a search experience up and running. And then we can talk through actually using that search experience in Freshdesk. So I'll go ahead and just fill out these details. Henry Kramer, H Kramer plus webinar. I'll say I'm at Yext. So now this is going to take me through the account creation process. Under the hood, we are actually spinning up a production account for you. Usually it doesn't take longer than a couple of seconds. There you go. It says, take me to my account. So I can go ahead. So the nice thing is when you enter a free trial account, we've given you a blank account here. We've got this quick start guide on the right-hand side, which walks you through the first 2 steps that I talked about in those earlier slides. The first step being getting data from Freshdesk into Yext, and the second step being actually creating that search experience. So when you hit add data here, you're going to be redirected to our app directory where we've got a ton of different data connectors. The user is going to need to click on the Freshdesk Solution Article Connector, and then follow the install flow. So why don't we can do it together? Install. Just going to pull up my credentials on the side. Hit install on Yext. We're just going to authorize it to apply these files to my account, mainly custom fields, the actual connector, and a transform plugin. And here, I'm actually going to have to do this twice. Adding my subdomain, I'll add Yext test here. Authorize, and then again, Yext test. And then your API key. And your API key can be found within your Freshdesk account. If you go to the top right, you've got a little icon with your name on it, and you go to profile settings, your API key will exist in that page. So here's our API key. Let's save. And then when you hit sync articles, the connector will be created and will start running in the background. Now, our account has a lot of articles. It's going to take a couple minutes to run. So I've expedited this process with a different account where I already loaded up the entities. This is another free trial account with a couple other entity types, but I've already got all my help articles in here, which is great. So once you've got once the connector has run and you've got your help articles into Yext, the next step is to enable that search experience. You can see here, there's going to be a big enable button. And when you click enable, that's all you need to do. We're going to auto create that Yext answers experience using the articles that you just pulled in with the connector. So once you hit enable, you'll be redirected to our pages. You'll be redirected here. I'll do it for you. And you'll see that you'll already have an environment ready for use. I'll pull it up here. You search help articles. These are all of your Freshdesk help articles ready to be searched. We've added some nice optimization as well, where the drop-down prompts will automatically equal the title of the articles. So yeah. So in just 2 steps, you hit add data, you authorize the connector to run. So now you've got data in your Yext account. And then on that other sidebar, you just hit enable, and we'll create an answers experience for you. So now you've done what you need to do in the Yext platform. Now the next step is to add that answers experience to your Freshdesk site. And that can be a little daunting. I can go into our portal editor here. A moment. And you can see that to some, it may just look like jargon, just a bunch of lines of code. So what we've tried to do in our guide is to make it as easy as possible for you to copy and paste and change the variables you need to get that answers experience working. So this is our guide. This kind of takes you from 0 to 100. We've already done the first 2 steps, in fact, which is indexing your Freshdesk data and enabling your experience. Danielle, I'm seeing your question in the Q&A. I'll pause for a second because I know I moved quickly. Danielle asked, can you explain how you got to the coding again? Absolutely. So again, first step was pulling the data into Yext. Second step was enabling that experience. And now that we've got that experience, we need to add that Yext answers search bar and search results into Freshdesk. And so to do that, if we want to add it to the portal, Freshdesk has got this concept of the portal editor, right? This is how you, Danielle, if you have a Freshdesk account, this is how you can make changes to your Freshdesk portal front end. And so we need to somehow in these boxes add the Yext search experience. Again, I totally recognize that this code looks daunting, but you have to deal with it to make changes to your Freshdesk portal. And so we have this guide to show you exactly what you need to do to get Yext live in Freshdesk. So hopefully it'll become a little clearer, Danielle, as I go through these steps. But again, we've already indexed the data. We've enabled our experience. We have a production URL. Now we need to add answers to your portal. And so I'm not going to go step by step through here, but I just really want to make you comfortable with the guide, how it lays out exactly what you need to do to see a Yext search bar and to get a Yext search results. There are really only 3 pages that you need to edit, that you need to add code, and we've given you the code snippet that you need here. You can just hit copy. You'll need to replace the business ID, which again exists in your Yext account. And then we show you all the code that you can delete and replace with the code snippet above. Again, I don't want this to be overwhelming. It's really straightforward when you take it step by step. So the first step is going to be creating a search results page, which is, again, just iframing your answers experience. Your business ID will actually be the in the URL of your Yext platform. So for example, 3609030, that's my business ID for this test account I spun up. So that's creating the search results page. Then we actually have to add that search bar to the help site. Again, this is 1 line of code. You'll delete these 4 lines below. And then a couple other placeholders where you can add your search bar. Now, in most cases, I recognize that people have admins that manage their Freshdesk instance. So this will be incredibly straightforward for them. But for those who are less familiar, we obviously have this guide that, as you can see, takes it really step by step. Tells you what variables you need to input. And also gives you optimized styling here that you can add to your Freshdesk style sheet. So again, I'm not going to get too bogged down in each specific step. Otherwise, I see a hand is raised, Sean. I don't know if I have the ability to unmute you, but if you can type your question in the Q&A, I can answer it there. Just as Sean is typing his question, I'll continue. So here we're going to add answers to the help site, and then I'll show you what that looks like once you get through this first page of steps. Where are we? So again, this is an out-of-the-box Freshdesk Portal view. I've made no edits other than changing the native search component to Yext. You'll click in, you'll see the familiar drop-down prompts. How often does Yext scan for duplicates? Will, of course, be redirected to the Yext search results page, which we iframed in. This query, luckily enough, gives a nice direct answer. But if you're on this webinar, you likely know what a Yext search results page looks like, a federated architecture, content across all different sources. So it's pretty straightforward getting Yext up and running for your help site. The next step in the guide is actually adding that search results page to your new ticket form, right? I talked earlier about if somebody's submitting a ticket, let's make sure they've searched against all of your company's information to make sure there's not an answer there before they submit a ticket that maybe could have been explained by an article. And so this is the guide for integrating that. Again, this code looks scary. I promise you it's not. The majority of what it's doing is actually sending analytics back to our platform so you can track case starts, case submits, case deflections. You can copy and paste this code into your new ticket page here. It's a straight copy and paste job. The only thing you need to watch out for is updating your business ID. So you're pulling the right experience. Here you'll update the business ID, and here you'll update the experience key. Both things are found. Again, the business ID is in your URL, experience key within the answers subtab. I'll show you just to be complete. Here's the experience key, answers help site. So it's a straight copy and paste job. You'll save and publish, and then this is what it'll actually look like if somebody goes to a new support ticket. The Xai search component initially will be dormant, nothing will populate, but as soon as we have something to search against, how do I reset my password? They don't even have to use the search bar. They can just, it'll automatically pull the search from the subject line, so they can tab or click out here. You can see we automatically run that search against the experience you provided. And I'll just reiterate what I said before. Of course, the goal here, getting an answer to a customer so they don't end up submitting that ticket. And again, all analytics that we track within the Yext platform. I'll pause there. As questions come up, of course, please feel free to ask. I see Danielle in the chat. You asked, where can we find this guide? Great question. Danielle, this guide lives within the Hitchhiker site. So you can really just do a search, Yext, Freshdesk. If you search in the search bar, the guide will pop up. We'll also be sending it around after the fact, so we can make sure you always have access to it. But again, adding Yext to your portal is really the meat of it. And it's really not as scary as you look. In preparation for this webinar, I had to do it, and it took me honestly about 5 minutes. It's really just a copy and paste job. And we make it pretty clear in each step where you need to copy this code into which file in the portal editor. Great. So I'll move on to the final sub-solution, which is our agent desktop app. I realized I haven't shown the listing. So we actually, a couple of weeks ago, published Yext in the Freshworks marketplace. If you start here, freshworks.com/apps, type in Yext, you're going to see our amazing listing here. And once you click install, you'll go through the install flow for your Freshdesk account. Of course, for my account, let me just jump to it. I've already downloaded it. And all you need to do once you download the app is it's going to bring you to this screen, and you purely have two options. The first thing you need to input is, of course, your production URL. Now, you'll remember under the hood when we enabled our experience, that gave us our production URL, which lives in the Yext platform. This loads. Production URL lives here. So it's just asking for this link. And the second thing it's asking for is if you want to, within Agent Desktop, if you want to auto-populate the Yext search bar with the subject of the ticket. Now, in most cases, this is a no-brainer. The reason that we've left this as optional is because we charge on a per search basis. So sometimes customers don't want to run up their search volume. Basically, they're running a search every time an agent opens a ticket. For some people, this makes a lot of sense and they see the efficiencies. Sometimes people are more cost conscious and don't want to use up all their search quota. So we leave it up to you whether you'd like to or not. But once you do, and you hit save, we can see what this looks like on an actual ticket. So I've made a fake ticket here. How often does Yext scan for duplicates? At first glance, where Yext is integrated is pretty subtle. And I'll go through each one. The first and most obvious place, sorry, I'm just looking at the chat. James asked, how many implementations of Yext to Freshdesk so far? And what are the biggest hangups so far that customers have had? James, so the first part of your question, I don't actually have an exact number since this is a relatively new integration and a new go-to-market motion. We've been going with our free trial to market, and I know we've been quite successful. Actually comparing it to our Zendesk free trial, we've been more successful, but I couldn't give you an exact number. And to the second half of your question, what are the biggest hangups so far? We actually haven't had so many hangups. A lot of people are actually curious about further functionality, further ways to integrate Yext with their Freshworks suite. So we've come to market with a Freshdesk integration, but as you may or may not know, Freshworks has a lot of different product lines. There's Fresh Sales, Fresh Service, and Fresh Bot. And so we've got a lot of questions in market about how we can integrate with those other products, which we've been exploring. In terms of hangups with this specific integration, I would say the most common thing we see and the most common hangup from getting live is what you would expect. It would be implementing into the portal editor. And 9 times out of 10, that is usually a missing comma or somebody's typed in the wrong variable. I would say I actually can't think of an instance where the hangup hasn't been user error, but we're always happy to get on the phone and make sure that you've input all the variables correctly. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question. So back to, sorry, I realized I stopped mid-sentence, back to Agent Desktop app. The first and most important, I think, placeholder for our integration is actually in the conversation editor. So when you hit reply, you'll get this nice text edit box, but below you'll see the Yext AI search icon. When you click it, you'll see this panel comes out from the right-hand side, and we've automatically searched. We've automatically, again, populated the search bar. How often does Yext scan for duplicates? Based on the subject line of the ticket. This is obviously a pretty powerful feature. We feel, again, I'll emphasize it's optional. You don't have to run up your search quota with this, but it's a nice way for agents to get answers and to automatically be able to respond either to link to the article or copy and paste the direct result they're getting. We also wanted to offer Yext in as many places as possible, of course, so people could use it. So the second placeholder is this, I actually don't know the terminology that Freshdesk used, but I'm just calling it the bottom left pop out. Again, a standard search experience here. So maybe if you want to still be on the ticket and type, hi, this is me typing, you can do that with this modal. You obviously couldn't do that with this conversation editor app. And then the final place that we've integrated is in a full screen view up here on this utility bar. And this takes you actually out of the ticket and just gives you a full screen experience of your production URL. So yeah, that is our Agent Desktop integration. I'll pause there for questions. Of course, this is a pretty detailed integration with the data connector. We automatically create the search results. We automatically create the search experience. And then there are 3 separate sub-solutions for a front end. Of course, you can pick and choose which sub-solutions you would like to integrate on the front end. Maybe you just want help site search, or maybe you just want the Agent Desktop search, or maybe you want a combination. You want case deflection and Agent Desktop, but not help site. Of course, we can accommodate all of these. I'll pause there. That's it for the demo. As you think of questions, that's it for the demo. Again, the guide can be found here. This is the URL. I'll also put the link in the chat right now so you can save it. So make sure you save that link, Danielle, if you're worried about finding it in the future. And so that's it for my demo. I'll pause for questions. I see a couple have been submitted directly to me. So I'll go through those first, but please, as you have questions, add them in the chat. So DJ is asking, are you expanding support for other Freshworks platforms based on your earlier comment? So yep, DJ, as I mentioned, this is something we've been exploring. I think the next one that we're going to add front-end support for is Freshservice. We've heard in market how this integration makes a lot of sense for IT teams, especially where they've got content in a lot of different silos. So that's the next one we're going to go for. But I think the more exciting next step is actually our integration into, I think it was previously known as Freddy, but it's now just known as Freshdesk Bot Builder. We've been working collaboratively with the SE team at Freshdesk and realized there's a huge opportunity for Yext to actually power the chatbot on Freshdesk. And so we're actually writing up formal materials now to add to the guide, but if you have a Freshdesk account, make sure you consider it because it's incredibly easy for you or your Freshdesk account team to spin up by just using your, you can actually create a free trial in Yext and use the variables we previously spoke about, your business ID and your experience key, to integrate Yext into your chatbot. So now if a customer types a question into the chatbot, it can automatically call out to Yext to search for an answer, whether you've got Freshdesk help articles in there or a community post or all these other different content sources. We're going to return the most relevant directly in the chatbot to your customer. Another question here, are you going to build more connectors? You mentioned the Freshdesk help article connector. but there are a lot of different content types. Thanks, Adrian. That's a really good question. So right now, out of the box, we just support the, as you mentioned, the solution article connector. But something we've also been hearing from a couple of prospects and customers alike is that specifically with the agent desktop integration, which I'll flick to just now on my screen, a lot of times agents actually want to search not just public information, but private information as well. And the number one source of private information, of knowledge rather, is a brand's historical ticket source, right? So we're actually in the midst of building a connector that is going to pull your company, the entire history of your company's tickets into Yext. So now if, I don't know, 2 years ago, a niche problem came up and somebody solved it then, the ticket was solved and now it's coming up again today, that agent can actually search your ticket repo for a niche question and get and see if that ticket, or if a similar question was solved years ago, they'll have an answer to it. So we think it's, again, a pretty powerful solution to be able to search against your company's entire ticket history. In many cases, it's hundreds of thousands of tickets. But that is the next connector to come out. And then from there, we're continuing to see which sources make the most sense to pull into Yext. Again, a quick plug, if you're not actually already familiar with our connector framework, which I'm actually just going to show on the screen right now. If you're not already familiar with our connector framework, this is definitely something to look into, especially our pull from API source. This allows you to hit any available API endpoint from any source and return data and map it as you'd like. Especially once from an authentication method point of view, once we support OAuth, this opens up pretty much any third-party data source in the world. So if you've got silos in various places and you say, oh, well, Yext, you don't have a pre-built connector for it now, how can I get it in? Definitely consider exploring this option. And if you're not sure, reach out to your contact at Yext and they can point you in the right direction, because now customers have the ability to really self-serve with a lot of these data sources. That is it for questions in the chat so far. Does anybody have anything else? Great. If nobody's got anything else, I know we're going to be sending this recording out after the fact. Hopefully this was helpful and we gave you a pretty good idea of how, I'll flip back to the slide, but how this diagram makes sense using the connector to get data from Freshdesk into the knowledge graph, building that answers experience either with the single click of a button or doing it yourself. And then how can you, once you've got that answers experience, how can you actually integrate it into the agent desktop app or the portal backend? And of course, all of it is documented in the guide, which we shared in the chat. If there are no other questions, thanks so much. Again, my name is Henry Kramer. I'm an associate product manager here at Yext, covering our support solution set. Please feel free to reach out with any more questions. And we'll see you in the community. Thanks so much. Bye.